In this lesson, we'll cover the Structure tab on the ribbon, specifically the Structure panel. The majority of what we'll do will be focused around and what is on the Structure tab on the ribbon. Now, on the Structure tab, the first panel is Structure. There's a variety of different tools that you can use to build structural elements within your Revit project. One is Beam. Here, you can actually make a structural framing beam by choosing individual points, creating an individual beam, or you could create a chain of beams. You could even create them along a grid line. The next icon over is Wall, and Wall has a drop-down. You have, for the most part, what we'll use here, a structural wall. Basically, it's a load-bearing element or shear wall that you would use inside of your structural building. You also have other types of walls, such as an architectural wall, which is really a non-load-bearing wall. And then you have the ability to add a wall sweep, which basically is an exterior-interior element that extrudes from the wall and swept along the wall surface. You can also create a wall reveal, which is basically a cut or an element removed from the wall. The next icon over is Columns. Here we can add vertical structural load-bearing columns that we can create within our building or our Revit project. And they can be placed in a variety of different areas. For example, we could place them at the intersection of our grid lines. After that, we have a drop-down for floor. You have different types of floors. The one we'll mostly focus on is the structural floor. This here, again, is for structural elements inside of our Revit project. You can also create just a general architectural floor, basically a floor within a home, if you will. You can also add slab edges. This would be reinforced areas for concrete slabs, parking garages, for example. To the right of that are three stacked icons. One is a structural truss, where you can add structural truss members within your actual architectural and structural layout between columns or within grids. Below that, we have structural framing braces, where we can add the braces between our columns and our trusses or beams. Below that is a beam system. Now, a beam system is very similar to a beam. However, within a beam system, you actually create a boundary and then define within that boundary how you would like your beams laid out. And that's what this little pictorial shows here. Now, there's one other element on the structure panel. It's a little down arrow to the very right. This is the structural settings. If you click that down arrow, it'll open up an actual new window for structural settings. Here, we can actually see and set a variety of different things for our structural components. One is the symbolic representation. How do you want these different symbols for braces and the location of these brace symbols displayed within your Revit structural model? Second tab over is Load Cases, and this is used for analysis. So what are the cases or types of cases that you want to analyze? And this could be different things for wind, for snow, temperature, seismic, or you can create your own cases. You can even combine, on the next tab, Load Combinations. So you can actually analyze multiple cases at the same time. And you can actually analyze these real time as you design or running them through certain scenarios. The next tab over is the Analytical Model Settings. This is where we can set up the automatic checking or analysis of your model based on these load cases and load combinations. And the last tab is the Boundary Condition Settings. This is used for your family symbols. How do you want these placed? Where do you want them placed? And if there's any defined variables that we're adding for the different elements within the families that we'll be creating. Go ahead and click Cancel. So as a review, in this lesson, we looked at the elements on the Structure tab, specifically the Structure panel. We talked about commands such as structural beams, structural walls, columns, structural floors, trusses, braces, beam systems, and lastly, we looked at our structural settings.